everyone. Welcome to the Felicity, Optimist versus Cynic podcast with us, your hosts, Melissa and Fish. This is a Felicity rewatch podcast. We'll watch an episode each week and join you here to talk about it. Just a quick reminder, this is not a spoiler-free podcast, so there may be some things, especially in this episode, that we talk about that might prompt discussion about what happens in future episodes. So if you haven't seen all of Felicity, just beware. But this is a really fun podcast, so stick with us if you can. So I am Melissa, and I'm here with my fabulous co-host, Fish. Fish, how are you doing today?
I'm a little tired today, Melissa. So I tend to ramble when I'm tired. You're going to have to cut me off and keep me going in the right direction.
Okay, I consider myself warned. I feel like that led to really good things last time, though,
Yes.
and a 10 out of 10 episode for you, which I'm still reeling about, by the way, for Todd Mulcahy Part 1. So I'm very excited to see where we end up with this one. This is a conversation about Season 1, Episode 14, Todd Mulcahy Part 2. It's the second two-parter that we've gotten in terms of episodes here of Felicity in this first season. It originally aired February 16th, 1999. This one also was both written and directed by J.J. Abrams. So he did everything there was to do for both Todd Mulcahy Parts 1 and Part 2. Now, I'm going to go ahead and read this description, Fish, but here's the thing. I have so many notes about this episode, but when I read this description, we're going to end up talking about something that's not in our notes. So Here it goes. TV Guide says that this episode was about this. Todd gets hit by a bus, and as he arrives at the hospital, he gives Felicity a note she wrote years ago about being an artist. Todd almost dies, which causes Felicity to rethink her career path and blow an interview with Dr. McGrath. Also, Julie mails a tape to Carol, and Elena severs ties with Tara/Tara.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, right? So I read this. I usually get the descriptions on Wikipedia, and then I was like, okay, well, maybe Wikipedia isn't the source that I thought it was. And so I went to TV Guide, and the Wikipedia description was the TV Guide description. So here's the deal. I would ask you where you want to start, but I guess we need to address the elephant in the room. Elena severs ties with Tara.
Yeah, that didn't happen.
Didn't happen. We never saw that. We saw
No.
Tara/Tara in one episode and never again.
That's so weird. I guess maybe they get the pre-edited version or a version before it goes on TV, and then they write up their thing, and I guess the scene got cut.
Or somebody really wanted closure. I don't know. Listeners, are we missing something? Did the original airing have this and then like the DVD version didn't? What's going on? I mean, it can't be, right? Because we saw an episode of the length that every other episode is. And they had to do so much in this episode. I have proof. Not only do I have a page of notes, I have notes in every crevice. And that's without the Elena severs ties with Tara part. So I thought I was going out of my mind when I saw that in the description. It's like, did I just miss a whole section of story here?
Well, we might have to say spoiler here because I'm going to ask. I mean, does that ever happen?
No. We literally, to my memory, for which admittedly at this point might be faulty, I believe we only ever saw her in the Friends episode, and then never again for the rest of Elena's life. So like, I was not expecting to see this in a description. I don't even know how it could have been in a pre-edited, pre-final version of this, because we really did see a full-length show. If somebody was trying to do that in addition to the rest of the stuff they did here, they were not going to succeed in terms of time. So goodness. Well, I just wanted to stun you as much as possible here at the beginning. But look, let's not spend too much time talking about something that actually didn't happen in the episode. Let's talk about what did. Where do you want to begin?
Yeah. Okay, so Todd Mulcahy part one. It was charming and hilarious and weird. It was like all the things that I wanted. And then Todd Mulcahy part two. I don't know whether this is sort of the reaction I would have had to this last week, or if it's just kind of things going on in my life, but almost every character was just pissing me off.
Wow.
In this entire episode.
Okay.
Just pissing me off, like all of them.
Yeah. Huh.
So,
Okay.
like, pick a character and we'll just start there.
Yeah. Well, just for the sake of it, can we start right at the opening? Because I would not say that I had the experience of the characters pissing me off, but there were some people at the very beginning who were. Did you notice when they were the medics and the doctors were wheeling Todd into the emergency room, they were moving so slowly. This man was broken in a million places. He was bloody. Yeah, he was a mess. He was about as much of a mess as you might be if you were hit by a bus. And it's just like they were ambling to get their cup of coffee for the day. I was like, guys, can we have some sort of urgency here? Slow medics, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I guess they could have made the hallway longer, but I mean, it took them like as much time to get him through the doors as, I mean, he had to give Felicity this note.
You know what that is, what the problem was.
Yeah.
Okay.
Short hallway.
They had a lot to achieve. He had to tell her there was a note. She had to fish it out of his jeans pocket, and she had to notice, oh, this is a letter that's covered in his blood. And they had to do all of that between when the medics show up and when they get him through the doors to the emergency ward. That's what the problem was. You nailed it.
Yeah.
They were like, we know this takes 5 seconds when you're at a run. So we're going to need to stretch this to 30. And we're going to need you to walk the slowest pace that a medic has ever walked in an emergency.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, I did notice that. And I was like, oh, she's fishing the note out of his pocket. So, I can understand being pissed off by those people, but I think that was an issue of the set, really.
You raise a really good point here. That's why they pay you the big bucks and not me.
So many dollars for this.
Yeah, I mean, dollars just everywhere. All the dollars. Okay, well, I obviously chose to begin somewhere that's completely irrelevant and is never going to be mentioned ever again. But I know you were really aggravated by the main characters. So,
well, I mean, we can start here, though, because what does she do? She's got this guy, Todd Mulcahy, right? And he, although fully hilarious when we watch it, she has just seen him be hit by a bus. So probably less hilarious for her.
Yeah.
And she is kind of slowing down the medics by letting him give her this note that she wrote.
Yeah.
And then she's just standing in the hallway reading it. Get on the phone with his parents or something. This is not about you. This entire episode, everyone, I don't know, it just reminded me of how self-absorbed people can be, especially when they're young, but not just when they're young. So yeah, her standing there and opening the note to read it kind of pissed me off.
Okay. Well, he had given her a note. It seemed very important to him. And she didn't actually know anybody in his life to be able to make phone calls.
Well, figure it out. Come on.
Well, yeah. I mean, I guess wouldn't that be the hospital's job to figure out the emergency contact if they could have figured out what his insurance was?
They went
Like,
to high school together. Like she just was in town and saw him buying a turkey. Like she can call some people.
that's true. But I don't know. Would you have,
Yes. I would have tried to like get in touch with somebody.
yeah, but I guess, would you have a relationship, or like, even, I guess at the time we knew people's phone numbers memorized
Yeah,
for their home. Yeah, I guess it was possible, right? But she knew him from summer school.
that's true.
So I
Summer
don't
school.
know
But
if
still, she
she,
knows the basic area and she knows his last name.
okay.
Like get the yellow pages.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Okay. Or the white pages.
I mean, if they owned a business, sure.
Isn't it the reverse? Isn't it white pages for
People,
like personal contacts, and yellow pages for business?
I don't know.
Well, see, that's the thing, right? This show takes you back in time. Have you given more than 5 seconds thought to white pages or yellow pages since early 2000?
I have,
Okay.
surprisingly, because I was listening to a streamer on Twitch, and for some reason, we were talking about whether the yellow pages still exist and how, you know, um, how guys were going to show that they were really strong if they no longer had them to rip in half.
Wow.
Right.
That's the thing, huh?
Right.
Well, it was a
So,
thing. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, you're gonna have to find some other really big book.
I mean, are there any other books like that? I
Maybe like
don't
a dictionary, but those are usually hardbound.
hardcover, right? See,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. I mean, it's a real problem.
Yeah. Well, we're really uncovering the seedy underbelly of yellow pages, white pages, and all things late 90s technology, or lack thereof. So, okay. Well, I see what you're saying. You wanted her to be taking some other action here. I mean,
Yeah, and it's not like this was the biggest thing that pissed me off because we then go into this whole scene where instead of staying with him in the hospital and like she just leaves him there alone with nobody and opens the box that he sends her and starts like slow-mo eating Malamars.
mhm.
She just covers her room and all this stuff. She starts like looking at, she's having some sort of, I don't know, crisis within herself of what am I going to do with my life while this guy is in the hospital? Like,
Mhm.
you know, she doesn't know if he's going to live or die. And she's just left him alone. And she's thinking about like her dad and she's thinking about, um, just, I don't know. I,
Yeah, I mean, I wrote in my notes, she's guilty and she's shaken.
she's
Um,
watching Dead Poet
yeah,
Society.
it's not really a psych up movie when you got somebody in the hospital.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so I was not happy with that. And then of course she continues to make it about herself by blaming herself and saying, "Oh, it's all my fault because, I shouldn't have, I don't know, said whatever I said to him and then he wouldn't have been in the street." And Noel comes in and what does he say? He's not like, "How's your friend?" He's like, "You're eating his cookies,"
Mm-hmm.
which I also kind of thought, "You're eating his cookies." But the way
Mm-hmm.
he said it was like accusatory
Yeah.
for
It was like,
himself.
oh, okay. So that's where we are in our relationship now. You're eating his cookies.
Right.
Yeah.
See? And he sits down and he says, uh, to her, whatever, existential crisis, she's telling him that her life, she's lost track of it. She's feeling meaningless. And he's just like, "Well, you have an excellent boyfriend." I'm
It's
like,
true. He does say that.
dude,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
you
and
see
he
what I
walks
mean?
into a situation too where it's like, for, however many days that Todd Mulcahy was trying to track her down in part one, she was trying to keep it contained. She was really annoyed when he was popping up in different places in her life, and she was kind of keeping the care package all boxed in. And then he walks into this room and the care packages everywhere. All the contents are everywhere.
Yes, it has
There was
exploded.
so much stuff in her room. I thought to myself, I know the box was big, but
Yeah.
how could it have been that big? I mean, she had everything. She had Pepsi and Coke, and you said Orange Crush, and she had Fritos, and she had Lifesavers and Doritos and Malamars and art supplies and Cracker Jacks. I wrote it all down. There's a lot of other stuff we couldn't identify. So much other stuff. And it's all over her room. So he walks in to a room that's just festooned with Todd Mulcahy paraphernalia. Like, and she's watching Dead Poet Society, and it's like a very different vibe than he might have had before.
Yeah.
And
But,
he's threatened.
well, is he? I don't know. I mean, I feel like he's slightly, maybe a little bit unsettled, but I mean, again, the guy is potentially on his deathbed. I mean, how threatened could he be?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I mean, they don't really seem to care much about Todd as a human being.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
and when they seem to care about him, it seems to be um, in this very fake kind of, I mean, Felicity putting up the license plate on her, little mirror stand.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It just really bugged me because I don't know. She's signaling that he's like important to her all of a sudden, and all of this stuff is so meaningful to her.
It's so unfortunate you're having this reaction because it's really important that the stuff that's coming out of this, the crisis that she's having, a lot of the stuff they've set up here in this 2-part episode is incredibly important for the shape the show will take, definitely for the back half of this season. And I would even say some of this stuff is going to have ripple effects long after this. And, to bring back that central question of doctor versus artist, the like kind of doctor or artist, which by the end, she kind of makes it doctor and artist for some amount of time. All this stuff is actually really, really important to the way the show is going to develop from here forward. But if they got there in this episode and for you feel like it's sort of trivialized by them just sort of, well, they're just thinking about themselves again. Like, I wonder if they could have done it in a way that would have achieved the goal without making you feel like, what's Todd, just a piece of meat?
Yeah, I agree because I can see how important it would be to the future. And I did pick up on like a couple of little things. Like, for example, I noticed Felicity did better than Elena in the test, which I did not expect. But it's not so much that this experience is trivialized, because I get that she's going through something. And Noel also gets that she's going through something. And then she, snaps at him, I think fairly rightly so. But I just feel like, yeah, they could have done it in a way that showed her being like empathetic and kind and caring about what happens to this person, instead of, yeah, I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna like bring him some stuff, and like I'm gonna put his stuff all around my room. I don't
If they
know.
had done this, instead of having that scene back in her room, if it had been in the hospital waiting room, would that have changed this for you?
Like if she had brought the box with her to the waiting room?
Or even if she had just been reading the letter. Because it's the reading of the letter that shakes her. And being back in her room, she has all the stuff in the box and all the stuff that he's given her to sort of like immerse herself in it. But the real thing that like prompts her into the existential crisis is reading the letter and seeing the words that she wrote when she was younger, the same words that she was grappling with in the pilot and the start of the series, this whole like don't want to be following in my father's footsteps. And, like, do I want to be an artist or a doctor? And those were things she was thinking of at the start of the season too, to some degree. And now, reading it back and seeing that this guy has charted it as early as summer school for her, I think that's what makes her be in this tailspin. So if they had just like had her reading the letter in the waiting room of the hospital and not having actually left, would that have made this?
Yeah, I think if she hadn't, so she takes it out of his pocket. If she hadn't read it right there, but instead had like gone back to the waiting room and sat down and like looked sort of shocked for a while, and it was clear she was going to stick around, and then sort of slowly opened the letter and read it and, started thinking about things, but stayed in the waiting room until, say, like a doctor came out and said, there's really nothing you can do here, or, her friends are coming in and out, or somebody showed up for him. Like, I would have really liked to see her stay by his side. And then if she has this sort of existential crisis as she goes, that's fine. But I think you don't leave somebody who's come across country, like, and is alone in the hospital, because you always need an advocate in the hospital.
Yeah.
So that part just, I don't know, it really bugged me.
Well, I think we came up with a somewhat easy solution, but they shoehorned in so many, I guess they were doing this for convenience sake. They did a lot of stuff in this episode. So I guess they were looking for convenience in telling the story they wanted to tell, because ultimately we're never going to see Todd again, ever. Spoiler alert. Like, this is it. This is all we're ever going to get of Todd. And so like he's not important actually in the show himself. He's important in but he's the most important 2-episode character I think we'll ever see, based on like the ripple effects he's now created. It's kind of interesting to think about him, because I can't think of any other character we're going to see for 1 or 2 episodes that leaves so much of a mark on future plot. But he himself is a 2-episode guy. It's like we're not, or I don't know how attached we're meant to get to him. So I think for the sake of expediency in the plot, they just kind of moved these characters around the way they needed to. But the problems that you're having with it sounded like it could have been very easily resolved by her just like staying in the hospital until somebody said, he's awake, you can go now. Like, or he's not going to be awake for a while, you can go now.
Yeah, I mean, that would have definitely made me feel better about it, because she leaves and he's still alone while she's doing all the rest of the stuff. She's going in and looking at the art room, and some guys start checking her out, and I mean, they do go back to the hospital as a group, and they have the scene. Elena's talking about what it's like to be in a hospital, and I think that's fine. She's like, it's like home. And Julie's smelling the air, which I agree. It smells. There is a hospital smell. Noel is completely not helpful at all, telling another one of his stories about being hit in the face with a ball. His brother is I think it was a baseball brother.
Yeah, his brother throws a baseball at him while he's in a tree and breaks his nose. He falls out of the tree, lands on his arm, breaks his arm.
Yeah,
and it causes everybody to start laughing.
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of funny, but then everybody's laughing, and I get Felicity was not laughing. I noticed that, so I appreciated that. But I don't know. It was
I like that scene in terms of something about the formation. I like it when shows do a formation like that, where everybody's sort of in like a pyramid shape, or everybody's looking at something in a room, all facing the same direction, not looking at each other. In this case, all of them were looking into Todd Mulcahy's room, which was a hospital room, which was basically looking dead into the camera. And I don't know, I kind of like that formation and just that approach. There was another show that did something like that with a very different tone. I remember One Tree Hill did that in season 6. Very, very different tone to that episode, also in a hospital. And I don't know, something about that I really like. I don't know what it is that I like so much about that. I think there's a certain way that the characters have to interact with each other when they're not looking at each other. And they all seemed really synced up with each other in this particular scene.
Yeah. I mean, I think it might also come back to, I think we were reading some stuff on Instagram that said that they were really good friends.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
you kind of felt it, right? Because when as an actor, if you can't look at the other person, you don't have as many cues you can pick up on. So to see that, in this case, they had, 6 people eventually in formation, none of them looking at each other. But it just felt like they were really, the timing was right. They were really in a groove. And I think you're right. I think that comes from a certain chemistry between the whole group.
Yeah.
And of course, in that moment, Sean shouts out his vending machine, his disposable camera vending machines, which are in the maternity ward. Mm-hmm. So I like that they continued that thread. That's the reason why he's in the hospital. Everybody else is there to see Todd. Did Felicity stay in the hospital when everybody left and then go into Todd's room alone? Or I think she might have come back another time.
I'm looking at my notes. So,
because he was unconscious when they were looking at him in the hotel, in the hospital room. But when she comes back, he's awake. So presumably some amount of time has elapsed. I'm guessing that she left and she came back again, that she's been visiting him somewhat regularly.
So they talk about the chicken, and then we get the whole Richard thing. But for me, the next thing I wrote down about Felicity is the art room. So she goes through the whole art room thing before she goes back, right? Mm-hmm. And spends the night there. Mm-hmm. So I think at least the rest of that day and that whole night, and probably a good part of the next day, has all passed.
Okay. Yeah.
Before she goes back.
So she's visiting maybe daily at some point. But the next time she goes back, he is awake. And so they are actually able to have a conversation. And she's done a lot of internal work between the first words he said in this episode and that next time. Because in the interim, she has been deeply unpacking everything that he has said to her. She says to Noel at one point, this strange guy comes into my life and criticizes how I'm living it. And I think he's right. Mm-hmm. And, he's basically only repeating back to her the words she has told him, which I always think is interesting in a conversation with somebody when it's like, no, this isn't my interpretation. You said these words to me. And so that's the only thing I can possibly know about you. And to hear that back, shook her in a major way. She's been thrown back into that fundamental question of, am I going to be an artist or a doctor? And the words that she said in her letter were, when I grow up, I know I'll have to make a decision. I'm happy that day is not today. And those words get repeated back to us at the end of this episode when she continues to defer that decision. So there's a lot of really big things that she's been grappling with in between all of these times when she visits him. And Todd just still wants the kiss.
Yeah.
That's it. He's a simple man.
He still has a one-track mind. But
you don't understand. You're making me think all these things. It's like, yeah. So the kiss.
I know. And I don't know. I'm willing to have a little bit more sympathy for him because he was the one that got hit by the bus.
Right.
So okay, so he does kind of guilt her into it by saying, I did come all the way here and get hit by a bus for you.
Yeah.
So
What more
how
does
about,
that guy have to do to get this kiss?
yeah,
I mean, he fractures his liver.
I don't think that's a thing.
I don't think it's a thing either, right? I'm
There's
Googling
no
this right
bones.
now.
No, there
Flat
are no
out Googling
bones
this.
in your liver. So
Yeah. Fractured liver. Let's just see what maybe comes up from a search like this. But you keep talking.
go on a research mission.
I'm seeing liver laceration.
Yeah, cutting makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Fracture implies bone.
Liver fracture and bleeding.
Oh,
You know what? I'm not prepared to discount this entirely just yet. Look, folks, I'm not going to spend time on this podcast looking up liver fracture and reading it back to you. All I'm saying is I'm not prepared to say it's nothing.
all right. I mean, what do we know, right? I mean, they
Well,
have
I'm not
medical
very much.
staff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
So,
mean,
all right. I mean, it seems serious because when she does lean over to give him the kiss, I mean, he codes immediately.
flatline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I do feel like they set the timing up so that, I mean, I thought it was nice that she brought him stuff and she remembered stuff about him when he was a kid.
She
Even
brings
though
him
she,
Whoppers,
yes,
Goldfish, and a whole series of comic books, but his
two,
favorite was The Punisher.
yeah. And she couldn't remember what was his favorite, but he remembered stuff about her. But I'm just saying.
Mm-hmm.
So,
She just
and
took
she
a
gives him
guess.
the kiss.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she gives him the kiss. And she says to him, you know, I hope you're doing well and all that kind of stuff. So I think they've set it up to, you know, for her to be less guilty when he does kind of code and for all of this stuff because I mean, really, she's not looking too great at the beginning of this episode.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that he's still alive, the fact that she does come back and do all this stuff, and the fact that he has a fiance,
Oh my goodness.
right? These all kind of help us feel better
Mm-hmm.
about kind of Felicity and what she's doing. My bigger problem with that scene was, well, not with that scene, but it was actually the scene before that. So first you have Felicity just ditching this guy at the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And then when she's going to go back, she it's like she's in another world and she's not communicating with Noel. He's asking her what's wrong. She's focused on this other guy, but really because he's had an effect or because early her has had an effect on later her.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, they're just, she does snap at him and say, like, not every problem can be solved by coming to you. And we talked about that earlier about how he likes to solve problems.
Or just specifically hers.
That's true.
Leaves everybody else in the lurch, but he likes to solve
Yeah.
her problems.
And then we've got a little, you know, Richard coming by saying, if you guys break up, it'll screw up my life. I don't know. It's just like one after the other. Everyone is so focused on themselves.
Yeah.
So,
Well, but I suppose this isn't a defense of anybody as much as like let's just bring Todd down to that level too. We find out with the reveal that he's been doing the same thing you're complaining everybody else is doing with his own fiance, right? Like
yeah,
he codes.
yeah,
Felicity watches all these doctors wheel him out of the room and so he can get him into emergency surgery. And in walks this blonde with some flowers,
rub
ready to see this
that guy.
guy. Oof. And she says, where's Todd's room? This is like, oh, this was it, and she's like, who are you? And this one's like, oh, Todd's fiance. And Felicity just gives her this look like, how could this possibly be? How does this compute with everything else I understand about this last 2 episodes? And then she says, oh, you must be Felicity.
Mhm.
Like, wow, this woman, at the very least, she has been fully aware of the journey that Todd's been on. So there's that, but she had to swallow her pride and say, okay, you have this mission. You have to see what's going on with this Felicity character. And I just have to let you go. If you're really mine, you'll come back. That's where he left her to
Yeah.
show up in New York.
And I would say out of all the things that piss me off in this episode,
Oh boy.
that probably pisses me off the most. And
Wow.
not on Todd's part either, on Rebecca's part. I am super pissed at Rebecca because
Wow.
if your fiance says, "Oh, I don't know if I really love you. I knew this girl when I was 12 and I'm obsessed with her and I just saw her while I was turkey shopping and I'm going to go fly across the country and kiss her to decide, whether I have a life with her and if you can just like stay here and wait for me, that would be cool." No. You
And
do not.
a step
No, no, no.
further than that, she says that he'd been depressed. And I can't remember what the time frame was on
Six
that, but it
months.
was 6 months. Yeah. So he had been 6 months is a pretty long time to be fully immersed in depression. And seeing Felicity when he was turkey shopping is the thing that pulled him out of it. It's the thing that motivated him and like gave him a sense of purpose again. There are a lot of red flags here for Rebecca.
Yeah. And, if I'm Rebecca and I'm sitting at home and I find out that he's been hit by a bus, I'm not jumping on a plane and going out to see him. I mean, I'm sending flowers to the bus driver. Like, that's it. I'm done.
Mm-hmm. Well, we've had we've had a lot of discussions about boundaries here on this episode. And are Rebecca's in the right place? Well, they're hers. So I guess so. But are they where you would put them?
Yeah.
Yeah. I see a lot of concerning things here for the future of Rebecca and Todd. Well, and not for nothing, but when all of that's said and done, we get through the whole crisis. Rebecca finds out Todd's going to be okay. We get towards the end of the episode and they're wheeling a very beat up looking Todd with bandages everywhere into his van to get into, I guess, to the airport. And Rebecca helps him get in. They've got the automated chairlift to get into the van. She walks right back around to the other side of the van to help him get in. And he uses that opportunity to say to Felicity, it really was a good kiss.
He's still hitting on her. He's still hitting on her.
I don't know if this is the closure I want for that situation for him. And definitely it's not what I want for Rebecca.
No.
And Felicity's like, get in the van. Like, how do we make this thing go faster? Is there a faster speed? Yeah, I don't know. A lot of things that are concerning. So I guess if you were feeling like all of these main characters owed this Todd guy a little more, at least Felicity did, to give him some credit. This man came to New York, he got hit by a bus, like at least don't leave the hospital. But here he is leaving his own fiance in the lurch. And it's just if you get hung up on that in this episode, you're going to get really hung up and you're not going to be able to listen to anything else that's going on. Because it's like, it is at the same time really important that some of these characters are thinking about these major questions, particularly Felicity. So it's like, I don't know if I would undo that crisis that she's having in order for her to take better care of Todd. If there were small concessions they could make, in, like, for example, that what we said about like having her be in the hospital for more of it. I don't know how you show it as easily in that case, but I'm sure they could have found a way. But I still feel like she needed to go through this. And they need to get her into the studio. They need to set up all the stuff that's going to happen there. So it's like they were really doing a lot of work to set up the future. And in order to do that, every single person in this episode, I guess, had to be completely self-focused.
And they were.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, they made it happen. I mean, to a degree, though, I feel like where's the line for you? Because I think introspection is really important in life and in art. And I wouldn't want characters that never go around analyzing themselves of the world, because then I don't think they grow. So, can you ever have that for you personally? Can you ever have somebody exploring really deep internal questions and like not feel annoyed with them?
Yeah, absolutely. Just not when somebody has been, you know, almost killed and you're leaving them alone in a hospital. Like
Okay.
maybe that's what you should be introspective about. Like,
Yeah.
because even if Todd was worse than he actually is, you still like he's still a person, right?
Hmm.
Like you don't just abandon a person in that situation.
Yeah.
So that was what I had a problem with.
Well, it'll be interesting. I'm not going to spoil this, but in season three, we'll maybe kind of encounter a similar sort of a quandary. And I'm curious how you'll think they handle it at that time. If like in terms of characters really thinking about their own stuff versus dealing with somebody else's trauma. Um, I don't know. We'll see. They've set up a path here with this one, but Todd was meant to be a more minor character. So they didn't give a lot of room for him to have a ton of development. They did a surprising amount for what they were able to do in those 2 episodes, but it was really about like, how can we make this one character cause as many future changes as possible?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's not about him being a good guy or a bad guy, just being a person. Like you
Mm-hmm.
don't do that to people. It's not
Yeah.
okay. So I don't know. I mean, we can skip by it and just start talking about the art versus doctor kind of existential crisis that she's having at the moment. Although I'm still going to be pissed off by some of that, even though it has nothing to do with Todd.
Yeah, well, so this is, I guess there are a few different ways that they weave this into this episode where there is the fundamental question which underlies it all, which is she, I think it's really, what's raised in her letter of should I be an artist or should I be a doctor? I know I'm going to have to make a decision at some point. I'm glad that day is not today. I think for me, what's most important is this idea of artist or doctor, and then this idea of artist and doctor, which she's not really considering a lot when she's looking at the um, when she looks at it as like, this is binary, I have to make a choice. She's not looking at the potential that both of those things can have in her life. But I guess that is to some degree what happens in college, right? Because you pick a major, you're like, oh, I have to do this, or I have to do this. When you're pre-med, there's certain majors that you take in college where you have so many requirements that you don't get a lot of opportunity to take other courses that aren't related to that. And, pre-med is, I'm sure, one of them. So for her, it is more of a binary choice when, as an adult later in the world, like you could easily do both things. So it's for her really important that it's an either or right now to cause this existential crisis. And she's trying to figure out which one she wants and what it means, the decision she makes.
Yeah, and I think it depends a lot on the environment that you're in and whether they cultivate sort of free thinking or whether they cultivate more adherence to the program. So, if you're going through West Point, I mean, they're going to tell you what to do and you're going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to a liberal arts college, then maybe there's more room. And it feels like from the fact that Ben and her, even early on, couldn't get a lot of courses, that there is a pretty heavy core curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
So there just may not be as much room, especially if they have to accommodate a lot of students, even in the elective courses, which we've, heard that all the studio courses are taken up for the entire year.
Mhm.
They just have too many students and not enough teachers to allow for something more creative.
Mhm.
Because I had a friend from high school who, when he went to college, he, I don't know if he triple majored,
Oh
but
my gosh.
yeah, he brought together three different areas. So
Mhm.
it was computer science, medical field, and art. And what he ended up doing was making these computer generated art installations of like DNA or,
Huh.
other like parts of like blood systems and stuff like that. And it was just a really cool kind of combination of things that I think if you're in a place that allows you to do something like that,
Mhm.
and you're the kind of person who takes that on, then you can do that. So yeah, I think it just sort of depends. And she was not raised in a family that was going to say, do both and figure it out. It was, her dad said, do it this way. And so far she's done it that way.
Yeah, exactly. And so we're going to end up seeing, I think, two ways that this gets explored in this episode. One is that she actually physically enters a studio and she has experiences there. And then the other is that she's just taken this test from the Dr. McGrath seminar. And now she has to go into the interview, the one-on-one interview with him. So those are the two ways that she's going to have to further explore this concept of like artist or doctor. And I think both of them get explored in a slightly different way. Which one feels like one you want to tackle first?
Um, well, the interview happened first, so
Okay.
maybe we can start there with the continuing onset of her verbal diarrhea. She just sits in the interview and decides to speak what she's thinking out loud, saying, "Oh, why should I be in your seminar? Because, well, I'm thinking about being an artist." And kind of rightly so, Dr. McGrath says, "Get out."
Yeah,
Um,
1,000 bonus points. So this actor's name is Chris Sarandon. 1,000 bonus points are his face right after she says that.
yeah.
He looks like he has now officially checked out of the conversation, even though she continues to talk. He's
Yeah.
just like, when do I get to say you have to leave this room?
I mean, he's dealing with freshmen.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what do you want?
Frosh.
I mean, I
Oh
do
boy.
really like the way he played this character,
Mm-hmm.
um, even though he doesn't seem like a great guy,
Mm-hmm.
but the acting is very good.
Yeah, we'll see him a few times because Felicity keeps knocking on his poor man's door.
Yeah.
And so this is the first time, the one where he's doing the official interview with her. And she says, I'm thinking about maybe being an artist. And he's like, okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and remove your name from consideration for this seminar. Thanks for playing.
Mhm.
And then she comes back to him a second time. And she comes back to him right after Todd's life has been saved by doctors. He's coded. They resurrect him. The fiance Rebecca is so excited that he's alive, and Felicity makes a beeline for Dr. McGrath's office and is like, "I want to be in this seminar because medicine is about people." He's like, right.
Yeah. He just looks at her and goes, "Okay, I mean, yeah, and."
Very true. And then he says, okay, so you're telling me that you are committing to being a physician. She's like, nope.
At which point, he then seems to become interested and closes the door. He's like,
Mhm.
now, now I'm interested.
In
Let's
sales,
hear
we would
what the
call this
crazy
the
girl.
negative reverse.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm going to disqualify you and myself, and it's going to make you more interested to have a conversation with me. Stuff like
What
this actually
she
does
didn't
work when you
even
don't want
know.
it to.
I mean, human nature, man, we are messed up. Uh, but yeah, so he's like, all right, well, let's hear what the crazy girl has to say now.
Yeah. It's just like, and she doesn't really back it up. She's like, I just think it's ridiculous that you would require people to commit to being a physician by being in order to be in your seminar. He's like, isn't it kind of implied? Like,
Yeah.
you want med school, right? Why are you going to med school? For fun? Like,
Yeah.
he doesn't, it's like, but she really does not unpack it that much.
No. And I feel like there is something to unpack there. And maybe they just didn't have time, or I don't think it would have taken too much extra time, but she doesn't use her words.
She doesn't.
She just,
Imagine if she had just sort of like elbow leaned up onto the desk and said, look, Mr. McGrath, sometimes people in life think they want something and then they do a second thing or they switch gears. I'm not going to sit here and tell you what I'm going to do with the next rest of my life, all those decades ahead, just by being in your seminar. We're on a journey here, Mr. McGrath.
Mhm.
I mean, that doesn't feel like the conversation that you have.
No,
Just still
no, I
trying to get into
mean,
his seminar.
and that's the thing is because this university doesn't strike me as one that fosters creativity, she, I don't know that she could get away with the argument of, you know, you're boxing me in. Well, that's what pre-med is. Or I might want to do things in addition, which could then add to, what I'm learning as a doctor.
Uh-huh.
I mean, at this point, you want to get into the seminar. So you focus on getting into the seminar. And if you change your mind later, you change your mind later. I mean, what's he going to do? Go back in time and reject you?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, I kind of agree with Elena when she's like, are you dumb? I mean, this is not a time for you to just talk through your feelings with this professor. It's a
Yeah, he's
time
not
for
your
you to talk.
counselor. He's
Exactly.
the road to a seminar you need. She's very angry with Felicity for self-sabotaging.
Well, and I don't know if she was self-sabotaging.
Yeah, I guess that is a fundamental question here. Is she self-sabotaging?
Yeah, I think
She
she
tanked the
is.
interview, but is that actually better for her or not?
Well, she is consistently being herself, which
Mhm.
is incapable of keeping her feelings inside of her. So it's not so much she's self-sabotaging as she's just being her. And
Yeah,
she has had a thought, and therefore it must come out of her mouth.
yeah,
So, you know, that's just who she is. And
yeah.
then once she has it, or then she has a different emotion, and now that has to come out of her mouth. And so this professor, I mean, he does take the time to hear her out. And it's really in I guess, the final meeting between them where she knocks on the door and puts her head in. And, he doesn't even look up. So
Mm-hmm.
first of all, his office is amazing. I mean, look at that view. He's got this
Mm-hmm.
giant office. It's gorgeous. He's got this giant desk. I mean, he's clearly like a top guy.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't even look up from what he's doing, just holds up this note. Doesn't really say anything, just kind of waits for her to come over and get the note. And I mean, he's just like too cool. He's just too in that moment. And I'm just like, and this is the guy who is clearly sleeping with his students. He's gross and he's just, he's trying to be kind of, you know, I'm going to hold up this note. I have power. I'm going to try to be aloof and sexy for you. And I'm just like, oh my God, somebody slap him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, and she once again barged into the room apologizing to him this time. She's just like, you know what? Sorry. Saw somebody's life get saved. It caused a reaction. And you're right. He just sort of holds up the letter and then lets her take it and go.
Yeah, because he's already decided that she's the kind of person he wants in his seminar, I think, because he's got this sort of, I don't know, at least it seems with female students, a bit of a complex, he wants to be in control, and this girl clearly needs to figure out what the hell. So I don't know. The whole thing made me feel like he was skeevy, and I didn't like the ending relationship between the two, because I could have respected him if he had just said, no, like, you're out, we're done. But it's like he pulls her in, and like, I don't know, it was just a very scene.
Yeah. I mean, it might also be, it's kind of hard to get into Dr. McGrath's mindset here because we don't see very much from his perspective. But I would imagine not very many people talked to him the way she did the second time she came into his room. Probably not a lot of people talked to him the way she did in her interview either, but he wouldn't consider that because it's like, oh, you don't want the thing that I offer, so I'm not giving it to you. But the second time she comes in, she says to him, like, it's ridiculous that you expect people to commit. Whoever has sat in his office and said that, he is in a position of power, at least with the students. And just maybe by being different, she got his attention. So I don't know that that's a setup for something great, but she's thinking differently. She is being really ballsy in her conversations with him. And I imagine everybody else, it was just like one person after another coming into his office, just tripping over their own tongues and trying to figure out what to say that would be exactly right. And she's saying literally everything wrong. And it's just different.
I don't know if that's why you let people into your class, because they say everything wrong. I don't know. Either she should have said something that was more profound and made more sense, or, he should have just said, no, you're not in my class. But the way they had it like work out for me, I was not buying that he was convinced by what she said. I was buying that he was convinced potentially by what she was wearing, or her hair, or her eyes, or it felt gross.
Okay. I didn't read that in because I guess I'm just thinking ahead and know they're not going to have a relationship like that. But if you're picking that up now, that's saying a lot, right? Because you don't know exactly what's ahead.
Yeah, but we already know that that he has slept with students in the past, right? And it's not like he knows exactly who's, gonna be the girl.
Yeah, he's just kind of keeping his options open, you figure.
Yeah.
That's how you read it?
That's interesting. How I read it.
Very interesting. Well, so that's one side of how she's exploring this. The other side is by physically walking into the studio. And I think that's an important development. It's an important milestone, and it's an important second track for her to be on in this episode, because she's set up this fundamental question of artist or doctor. So we need to see her explore both in some way. And she's exploring both through Dr. McGrath, plus going into the studio. And it's a whole other world in the studio. I really like the lighting, like the way it was filmed. It was like hazy. It was like a dreamlike world in there. It felt stylistically like a very different place than every other place she's been in this series so far.
I'm actually going to agree with you.
Wow. Guys, we did it. Hey, we all did this together, folks.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I love the studio. I love how it's set up. I love the lighting and how, it kept shining off of her hair and you couldn't really see everything. It was just so different than every other scene and every other place on campus or off that we've seen.
And a small detail that I noticed that I've never noticed before and should have, because it's staring you right in the face. But when she has a first conversation with Eli, who's Simon Rex. Yay, Simon Rex.
Love him.
He's
Love
here
him.
and he is a student in the art studio who's working on his own stuff. I in the past when I've watched this, I've been looking at them and their faces, and I always thought, okay, they're not showing you what he's working on because the painting is away from the camera and they're both looking at it from, you know, their point of view. But then when I started looking at the lighting, the light is coming through the canvas and we can actually sort of make out what he's working on from the back of the canvas, because the light is that strong coming, the natural light through the window. So I thought that was a really nice touch, because it's like, yeah, we kind of can see what he's been working on his easel, and they're having that introductory conversation.
I did not notice that. What is he working on?
So what you can see is that it's a figure of a human. It's a almost full figure of a human. But a lot of the people in the studio, as you pan along, are working on barely these wooden block human figures that people are working on. It's not that. He's actually working on a portrait of somebody.
Okay.
We certainly can't see the level of detail, but you can see the, like, sort of the silhouette of it. And I loved the haziness. It really did feel like just a dreamlike state in that room.
Sort of otherworldly, like she had just opened the door to Narnia and is starting to walk through it.
And on the other side was Simon Rex and Taraji P. Henson.
Of course. As they should be. I loved some of the artwork that we did get to see as we were kind of going through. There was one girl in particular that seemed to be working on, I don't know, it almost looked like a war scene or like post-apocalyptic scene with buildings kind of on fire.
Yeah, that was a really cool piece.
Yeah, there was some very interesting stuff going on there. But I really liked everything that happened in this room. And I love the fact that, you know, she's like a kid in a candy shop and she tries everything that they have. She's trying charcoal, she's trying acrylic, she's trying watercolors. She's just like, I have now been told by this guy who has no authority whatsoever that I can use all this stuff. So I'm just gonna like go crazy. And it's just fun to kind of watch her do that.
Yeah. And this actually, I'm going to do my note from an Optimist right now, because Felicity, we have this scene where Felicity goes back into the studio now that Eli has been like, yeah, just come on in. I won't say anything to anybody. Just come in and use the supplies. So she does. She comes back. She draws all night. And we see her, you know, they sort of pan to one side of the room. You see the sun come up, and then they pan back over, and she's fallen asleep onto her drawing, and she's got charcoal all over her face or whatever she was using. And she, just that feeling of like getting so immersed in something that you're passionate about that you don't even notice the time that's gone by, whatever it is, if it's something or someone, just that feeling of really getting lost in something and not even noticing the time. I think that's such a special thing when that happens. And, you know, I don't know if she's ever experienced it before. Like, what has she done before that she loved so much that the sun came up and there she was, still, you know, recovering from a night of doing the thing. So I think optimistically, I wish everybody can have a feeling like that at some point, hopefully multiple times in your life, where it's just like, oh, wow, how did it get to be morning already? This is amazing. Or whatever time of day you work best, right? But this is a really special feeling. And I'm glad for Felicity that she's had it. I don't know if we've ever seen her get that lost in something before.
Well, we never got to see her, you know, be an artist in high school. But this may be, you know, some kind of experience that she'd had there, maybe not on this scale because she'd been depriving herself of it. And now she has, you know, everything at her fingertips. But maybe when she got that paint set from Todd way back when, maybe she had another experience like this. I mean, it
Yeah.
certainly has been important enough to her that she's coming back to it over
Yeah.
and over again.
Who knows? I do want to say that something we've never talked about, but when I realized a few episodes in that we had never mentioned it, I thought, when would be the right time to bring this up? And I thought this was the episode. So the opening credits. We've never really talked about the opening credits. They have different opening credits for seasons 3 and 4, but we've got these opening credits for this first season where it's just a lot of still shots of different members of the cast in different New York locations, mostly external shots. There's a very artistic feel to the credits for season 1. And not only is it the photography, but also the music behind it. That sort of like no words, woman's voice song in the background really puts an artsy feel to the show that never really did bear out in Felicity's pre-med track. So the fact that we're getting her back in an art studio now really feels like it's tying together the vibe they were giving me and how they open the show.
Yeah, I wish they had stuck with these credits all the way through. I remember sort of the new ones were a bit more like poppy sitcom. Does that seem right?
Mm-hmm.
There were like group shots and
there
was like upbeat music. And no, I like this one much better. And I also love it because, and this is just, a little thing for the audience to know about, every time it comes on, Melissa sings along with it.
Yes.
So
if I remember.
It's fantastic. Yes. Yeah. And if she doesn't remember, I remind her.
There's a lot of me going, oh, way, oh, like that. And it's pretty exciting for us.
Yeah, it's nice. It gives me picks me up for the rest of the weekend and gets me into the next week.
That's nice.
Yeah.
I'm here for you.
Thanks.
That's how it works. But yeah, I think there's a lot of love for these credits. Way back when I was looking at YouTube videos of both theme songs, and I saw a ton of people with really great feedback about these opening credits. And this, the photos are really lovely. Mm-hmm. If you sit with that for a minute, I know they go by kind of quickly, but if you really sit and look at the photos, they're really beautiful shots. Yeah. It's sort of like a love letter both to the cast and to New York.
Yeah, I agree.
But
I guess they probably picked up the new ones because that was the thing to do. But I don't know. I wish they had stuck with these.
Yeah, I don't actually know why they changed them. Maybe we can look into that a little bit more when we get to that change. But there's so many shows that have the same credits for their entire run, or they'll modify the credits. Like I remember, what was it, Veronica Mars? They changed the version of the song that they were using, but they had the same song. And I've seen other shows where they'll make minor modifications to credits every single episode. But that's part of their vibe. That's part of their style. So it is unusual to see a show switch their opening credits partway through. I can't think off the top of my head of other shows that have done that.
I feel like there's a number of shows that do maybe like the first 4 or 5 episodes with one set of credits before maybe they had a chance to shoot the new ones. And then there's a lot that have sort of a long version of the credits and a short version of the credits. So that, because sometimes you just kind of go into the show and they don't want to show you the full thing. I kind of like what people do now, which is there aren't really credits anymore. You just pretty much get into the show because once you've seen it, you've seen it. And unless it actually is really nice, like these earlier ones, you kind of just want to watch the show.
Yeah.
But I don't need the poppy credits for 3 minutes.
You got me into the 100 recently, and I actually did like their credits, and they modified them slightly each season, but they had the same music. But then you look at something like, J.J. Abrams, his later work, Well, Alias had consistent stuff that was happening, but then like Lost, it's just like the floating word lost across the screen. And that was it. That's all you're getting. Just
Which I was just fine with. I was like,
yeah.
okay. But I can always listen to these early ones because they're nice.
Yeah, they're nice and I get to sing along with them. So that's fun.
Yeah. I
But
mean,
yeah,
it's mostly that.
it contributes to the artistic style of the show. So yeah, I mean, we've certainly been unpacking the art versus doctor question, but there are other things that happened in this show with other humans.
Yes.
So maybe we should look at some of those. I will let's look at Javier and Ben.
Yes, I did like these scenes.
Oh, these guys.
Oh my goodness.
They're great.
Javier walks up to Ben and says, look at me. What do you think when you see me or look at me? And Ben's just looking at him like he's confused. And Javier says, do I look fat? And Ben, being who he is, just kind of laughs and is like, yeah, a little bit. And I expected Javier to be all huffy about it. And he just wraps his whole body around Ben in this hug and is like, yes, this is amazing. Like, this is what we do in my family. The most important things to us are brutal honesty and arugula.
It's so great. And the thing is, it sounds really rough the way you just said it. Ben does deliver it with brutal honesty. And he's like, well, you could afford to, a little bit. And he finally lands on, yeah, you're a little bit fat, right? And then he sees, he's not sure, like this is his new boss, right? The words have come out of his mouth. Yeah, a little bit. And now he wants to take him back. So then he spends 10 seconds being like, well, I mean, it didn't really mean exactly, it's not that I'm saying you're not really, and then he is interrupted by Javier's hug. So yeah. I just really enjoy that Ben's instinct is honesty. And he also has enough self-awareness to be like, I think I messed this up. Like, I think I just caused a huge problem for myself. This could be the reason I get fired on my first day or whatever day it is for him.
And then he offers, again, being Ben, he's like, oh, I was on the track team. I could help you lose some weight. Like, we could put together a diet together. And Javier is not really thinking about that. He's just thinking, you look good in running shorts.
That's pretty much it, right? Yeah. That's all he's
got in mind. That's where his mind is. And Ben, please, the hat now.
I just feel like we get, yes, put your hat on. I treasure your candor, but put your hat on. Yes. I love it. What we're getting in this episode with Ben and Javier is just these tiny vignettes of wonderful moments that actually tell you everything you need to know about their relationship. And we'll get more and more from them as time goes on. But we got this one. And then we have the whole Ben's trying to figure out how to make a mocha. And he's just abusing the machine. He doesn't know how to use the machine properly.
He has contempt for it.
Yes. Javier's like, you have to respect the machine. I do respect the machine. No, you clearly have contempt. It's so great. I also enjoy that he's now like showing Ben how to use it. And he says, and I quote, turn the knob the way you would want to be turned if you were to be a knob. Yep.
I wrote that down too. Just a little life advice for Ben.
Every single episode, we mark it with a quote.
Yeah.
And I have a lot to pick from Javier, but it's going to be a Javier quote.
I just feel like this is going to continue to be a fruitful and wonderful relationship for us to watch.
It really will. It'll develop into stuff that has, more important plot points behind it as well. But I'm happy with this for now. Like, give me the buddy comedy.
I mean, I'm gonna be watching to see if Javier ever actually does get Ben to put on this hat.
Hmm.
because I think it would be hilarious if he never puts it on during the
Yeah,
entire show.
that would be fun, right? We'll see how it goes. And then now that Ben has been educated on how to make a proper mocha, Noel shows up and wants a mocha.
Yeah. And he gets one, a
Mhm.
great one.
One he's very happy with.
Yeah.
Thank
And
goodness for the tutorial.
exactly. I mean, now that Ben respects the machine and is pulling its knobs correctly.
The way he would want to be turned if he were to be a knob.
Exactly. A
Hmm.
little more empathy with the machine. The two guys, they've gotten to the point where they can talk about girls,
Yeah.
and that's sort of the, you know, you got past the sports stage, probably because Noel doesn't know anything about sports. And maybe you got past the car stage because, again, Noel knows nothing about cars,
Hmm.
just a guess.
And they
But
can't talk about invite only parties because only Ben's
yeah,
been invited to those.
that's true. But they've finally gotten to this point where they can talk about the girls that they are, I, I guess, dating. I'm still a little on the fence with what's going on between Ben and Julie. Did they
Hmm.
ever officially say they were dating? Um, but they're sharing. They're sharing with each other.
Yeah. And there's definitely like a, what's going on with these women sort of conversation they're having. And they're
Yeah,
comparing war stories of the women and their wives being crazy, is
yeah.
how they're putting
Which
it.
you just that's not a thing you can say in front of women. This is what you say to your guy friends.
Hmm.
They're acting crazy. Women,
Hmm.
women be crazy.
Yeah.
I'm using the word women here so that we can keep this one episode from being explicit. But you know what the phrase is.
Hmm.
So yeah, Julie's got her tape um, that she's mailed off, and Felicity is really concentrating on this guy Todd, and the boys don't know what to do.
They just don't know what to make of it. It's the women's world and they're just living in it right now. That's it.
Yep. Well, and Javier's world.
And also Javier,
Yeah.
but mostly the women. Let's talk about Julie.
Yeah.
Because they actually don't give a whole lot of screen time to this storyline, but
No,
my goodness, is it developing quickly.
it's very odd. I mean, I feel like this whole episode has a bit of a surreal feeling to it. I wrote it down a couple of times. And so we see Julie and Carol, and they're starting to bond. They've got this stuff in common. Julie has sent this tape out. She could have just grabbed it back, but she doesn't because she's going to get in a cab with Carol, and Carol drops her bag. And Julie has finally sent this tape in, and it's on the ground, and she could have just grabbed it back, but she doesn't. She picks it up and she hands it back to Carol. So I felt in that moment it wasn't just her not really thinking about it, but she really does want this woman who she likes and sees herself in to be her mother, and so she wants her to know. So she does that, and then we get this just, I don't know, I thought it was a very touching scene between Julie and Carol. And it just makes me like Carol a lot.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, there's the two things, right? There's the Julie's mailed the tape, and before Carol has opened it, but has it in her hand or, has received it, they talk about Carol rediscovering her guitar because of the conversations she's had with Julie. And I think that's really nice, right? Julie is bringing some stuff up to the surface for Carol she hasn't thought about in a really long time. But then she does open the tape.
Yes.
And the conversation, next day at the office, she calls Julian. She's like, I'm not your mom.
Yeah, but she's really nice about it. She says, "Can I talk to you?" And Julie comes over and sits kind of nervously in this chair, and she just keeps talking, kind of like she's nervous.
Hmm.
And, Carol looks at her and says, "Got your tape. I'm not your mother. I never gave up a baby."
Hmm.
And Julie gets really upset. She's saying, but, the guitar and, this, that, and the other. And, Carol's just like, I'm sorry. I would remember if I had a child and I gave it up. And, Julie, I mean, she's upset. So she just kind of stands up and quits. And on the one hand, I get it. On the other hand, I mean, she's young, fine, but very unprofessional. She's like, I'm only here, to learn about you. And since you're not my mother, I'm going to quit.
Hmm.
Um, and Carol, I think, is really nice. She kind of leans forward and says, good luck, honey. Like, she doesn't call her out. She doesn't anything. She just says good luck. And then we eventually see, during the Dear Felicity part of the Dear Sally tape, Julie just crying on the sofa, and uh, Ben trying to comfort her a little weirdly by sort of petting her.
Hmm.
But still, she's crushed by this.
Yeah, her hopes were up, and she's no longer going to be an intern, which makes a lot of sense because she never wanted to be an architect, and Carol's not her mom. So this is where she's at. She's let go of the internship, and she just needs to be consoled.
Yeah. And, I mean, maybe that's the end of this. I assume it's not, but
I'm
since
saying
I don't
nothing.
since I don't remember what happens, I just have to go off of what I've seen.
Hmm.
And yeah, it's a blow to her.
Definitely a blow. I mean, if you think you found your mom and a professional helped you find this person, and you moved to New York for this reason, and now
Took an
it's
internship.
yeah, and now
Step
it's
one.
not a thing. It must feel like a real setback in terms of like, well, is it possible to ever find this person? I'm wondering how she knew, like, how did she know to come to New York? Because I'm led to believe that the private investigator found Carol quite a few episodes into the show, and
Yeah.
she had already moved to New York. So how would you know that?
She said at the beginning she knew that her mom was in New York. She just didn't know where.
Okay.
And so then she hires the private investigator to find out her name and address, which I find a little odd that he has tracked down this woman and has her name and address, and she's never given up a baby, because how would he have found her name and address?
Mm-hmm.
Like, where's the connection there?
Yeah. Well, who knows? I mean, that's the part you're getting stuck on. And the part I'm getting stuck on is, how did Julie even have enough information to know this woman was in New York at all?
Yeah, I don't think she tells us. I think she just says, "Oh, well, I knew she lives in New York."
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, they do a lot with that. And for a relatively small amount of screen time for
Yeah,
this particular story.
yeah,
So I don't know. I mean, Julie still doesn't know her birth parents, right? So, like, this is not going to quench a thirst. It's just going to be a setback for her. And where is she going to go from here?
I don't know. I mean, maybe she'll be a little more circumspect next time. But we'll have to see like how far it pushes her, because she wasn't in exactly a great place.
Mm-hmm.
And then she kind of went off on this kick, maybe without fully healing. And so I just don't know what it's going to look like in the next
There's
few
definitely a
episodes.
lot of dark stuff that's happened for her recently. So she has a lot to recover from. And,
Yeah,
that's going to, you know, it's going to be a journey.
yeah. But I
But
do like how supportive Ben is being. I mean,
yeah.
we don't see him say, like, "I told you so."
Even though
So,
he's probably thinking it.
yeah.
It's like, I don't know how else to make myself clear. I saw this coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
The
he's not
other
doing
thing,
that.
no, but the other thing I liked was that Noel was actually supportive, even though Felicity has not been treating him very well
Mm,
in this episode, and is in fact obsessed with some other guy and herself.
mhm.
But at the end, and Noel has been having to deal with a few things. He's got Felicity on the one hand, he's having to talk to Ben on the other. He's got Richard just driving him insane. Let's definitely come back to that.
Mhm.
Um, but I really like this moment towards the end where Noel, he gets that whatever is going on has to do with art, and this guy Todd has something to do with it. And so he takes all of this information that he has, which is
Mhm.
really not that much, art and
Yeah.
Todd,
Mhm.
and he brings art into his own world so that he can connect with Felicity. He says, Todd taught me how to use this computer program, and you can scan artwork into it and you can do art on the computer. And
Mhm.
so anytime you want to do that, like we can do that.
Yeah.
And I just really appreciated that, and I thought they had a fantastic kiss, which did not look like he was trying to eat her face. And I will not be persuaded
Persuaded
otherwise.
otherwise. Yes. Okay. Got it. Got it. I will hold my comments. So, yeah, I mean, I think that was a nice gesture. I think that he is being more moldable. I think he decided what's my priority in this situation. He could be niggling at her, like, why do you keep running off? Why do you keep talking about this other guy? He's had a moment of self-reflection here and thought, what's at the root of this? And I can't just be dismissive of something that's obviously becoming a very important journey for her. So maybe there's a way I can make it so that she doesn't have to be away from me in order to I'm accepting it, and I'm going to help her with it. And instead of this splitting us apart, maybe we can just grow with it together. And it's a big decision for him. I think that's a mature way to approach this.
Mhm.
And she seems to appreciate it. The gesture that he's made really de-escalates the situation. I don't know if it needed to still be de-escalated. She was in such a tense space when he first approached her about it earlier in the episode, but that's where they had left off. So he has de-escalated this by saying, you don't have to choose me or art. That's not a thing you have to, like, in fact, the same way that she's thinking like art or medicine, he's saying it's not art or medicine or Noel. It's whatever you want, we're working on it together. So I think the ability to take the or out and replace it with an and is becoming really important here.
Yeah. And I guess I don't really see this as a problem-solving moment for him. Um, Even though he's creating a situation which is better for all of them,
Mhm.
I don't think he's trying to solve something for her. So I also kind of appreciated that about it.
Yeah, he's just giving her space to do what she wanted to do within
Yeah.
the context of their relationship.
Yeah.
But you had mentioned Richard, and I think we need to explore that a little bit, right? So, because they need to have some wild times here with Richard. Richard's doing his latest ridiculous thing.
Mhm.
What is it? It's a hand modeling agency. It's Prime Digits hand modeling agency.
Oh, so poor Noel walks in and just sees all of these women sitting around in long white gloves.
Mhm.
He's going, what's going on here? But I bet Richard's behind whatever's going on here.
And he finds, yes, indeed, Richard is behind what's going on here.
Yep. Richard has cards made and he is interviewing people, and he's got the top hand models there. I mean, they really have been featured in, what was it, like Revlon and
National campaigns of all sorts.
yeah. So, I mean, clearly he knew how to advertise.
Yeah, I really wanted to see his business card. I wish they would have shown us that. That would have been awesome. But they didn't, alas. But Noel, of course, tries to be an RA for a second, and he's like, "You can't run a business from your dorm room." And then Richard's like, "Well, most people can't, but since I know you're fraternizing, I can."
Yep.
Yeah.
And I just, throughout the show, I mean, Richard, I think probably always makes it about himself. So
Mhm.
I don't know. It was just one more thing in a whole series of people doing that for this episode, but I was less bothered by it with Richard. But,
Yeah, he's
you know,
unabashedly opportunistic. That's
he,
him always.
yes.
So, it's fine. And I enjoyed the moment when he's having this really coming to a stalemate with Noel, that he's going to win, though, because even though it's a stalemate, he's still got this thing he's lording over Noel. And Charlotte, the hand model, comes up and she's like,
Yeah.
"Is everything all right here?" And the camera work, it just shows her hand, like the flourish of her hands
Yeah.
as she's trying to gesture around, like gestures you wouldn't make for "Is everything all right here?" But she's so used to modeling.
It's like a showcase on Price is Right, but the
Yeah.
instead of a refrigerator, it's Noel's face.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my goodness. So Richard continues to do everything he can do to make his life better and thwart Noel. And so when Noel and Felicity are having that conversation at the end, Richard's not sure. Is this going to end up in a breakup, or is it going to end up with them staying together? And he's got flyers made ready to sell the satellite dish, and he's ready to disband his business for the Prime Digits hand modeling agency. He's ready to let it all go if they're going to break up, or keep it going if they're going to stay together. And Felicity and Noel have their, very sweet conversation, and they're staying together. But Noel wants to fake a fight for Richard's sake. He fakes a fight so that Richard thinks they're breaking up anyway.
Yep. And then Richard has to post his flyer that he's going to sell the satellite and kind of huff off. And I assume this will come back to bite Noel in the butt later.
Who knows? These kids. What can you do with these kids? I just enjoy that we know exactly what Richard is, and they continue to deliver the same Richardness to us each time.
Yeah. I mean, he's consistent. By the end of this episode, as I said, I was slightly annoyed. So I do just have like Richard equals worm written down. I'm just like,
Okay.
he's a little worm.
Yeah, he
He's
just looks for his
wormy.
angle in any event.
Yeah.
Well, there was one more character that we saw for a hot second, and while we still are not getting a lot of time with her, we're
Yes.
always getting consistent information about her. We've got Megan.
Yeah. Who I think, has the right response, which is, did Todd die yet?
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
She just has questions, really. Did Todd die yet? Did Felicity blow you off? Because that's not good. I
Yeah.
mean, she gets to the heart of the matter real quick, and she does so with an infected nose, because
Yeah.
in the last
Clearly still
episode,
infected.
Todd helped her pierce her nose, and now her nose is infected.
She's still a little salty about it, so she wants to know,
Yeah.
is the guy who infected my nose dead yet?
Yeah. I mean, this is all we get from her, but it lines up with everything else we know about her so far.
Yeah, and the only reason that Noel is there in the first place is to ask where Felicity is. And all Megan can say to that is, I can't wait for you to stop asking me that.
Yeah, like, what is there ever going to be a time
Hmm.
when you're not approaching me asking me about Felicity?
And she doesn't answer the question. She just asks her own and then shuts the door right in his face. And he has to yell through the door, "Well, tell her that I was here."
Yeah. I mean, she's nothing if not consistent.
That's true.
Ugh. Well, shall we talk about what Sally said and what Sally meant?
Yes, I think that is a good idea.
So here we've got our segment, a much known, much beloved segment about obviously, Felicity leaves tapes for Sally at the start of the episode. And we got another tape from Sally at the end of this one. Last time we didn't because it was a part one of part two. So it's been a couple episodes since we've gotten to hear anything from Sally. But I'm going to tell you what Sally said. Fish knows what Sally really meant, what was behind the words. So here we go. Dear Felicity.
July 21st, 1969.
Well, I'm glad you got that seminar.
I was 5 years old. I still remember sitting on my dad's lap, watching Neil Armstrong taking his first step from Apollo 11 into the Sea of Tranquility.
You and Elena.
I don't remember exactly when I decided, but I feel like I always knew I would be the first woman to walk on the moon.
But mostly, I'm happy you remembered.
I was obsessed with Valentina Tereshkova, who was the first woman in space, and she was only 26 and did it the year before I was born.
You're an artist.
She was a Russian cosmonaut, and it was the 60s, so it was hard to get a lot of information about her.
It's funny. I've been thinking about what you said.
I dressed up as an astronaut for Halloween. I put paper stars and planets all over my room. My dad thought it was funny. My mom just seemed sad.
How one day you'll have to figure out what you are.
I didn't understand why when I was 10. They had already sent 12 people to the moon, all men. But by 13, I started wondering where all the women are.
But then I look at myself. I'm almost 34, and I'm still trying to figure out who I am.
By 19, when Sally Ride, the first American woman, made it into space, I was planning to be a teacher. And I was. I was also a bartender, a dog walker, a singer, a ski instructor, and for 3 magical months, a carny.
So maybe that search isn't just something that happens in college.
I'm not sorry I've taken this journey. It's 1999 now, and there still has never been a woman on the moon. Now that I'm out of witness protection, I'm going to see if Emmett can hook me up with one of his government contacts.
It's a search that continues the rest of our lives.
It might seem like a long shot, but I have a feeling the moon's still waiting for me. There we go. A little background.
It's like, we don't know a thing about her.
Well, we're learning, and may I just say for the record, it is now 2022, and there has still never been a woman on the moon.
Folks, what do we have to do?
So, Sally's dream did not come true.
For her or anybody.
Well, any woman.
Yeah.
But, we know now not only what she wanted to be, but also that she's a carny. So
she was quite the multi-hyphenate.
Just trying some different things out there. May or may not come up in other later tapes.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Well, I just continue to be impressed with the journey, is all. I learned something new about her every episode, or almost every episode. The ones that have a Dear Sally tape anyway, or a Dear Felicity tape. Well, another thing we continue to learn about is our listeners. Mm-hmm. And here we go. The after you listen to this tape, you have to erase it segment. I wanted to share a comment we got recently on Instagram. In response to, obviously, Fish, you've been critical of the clothing choices in recent episodes, all episodes.
Just a little.
Just a little bit. And we heard from @Ruby and Simba 13, so she loves the podcast, or whoever this is. They say they love the podcast, but they also have some thoughts about why with the clothing choices. So they say, you have to remember that when they were casting for this role, they were initially looking for a plain, studious type girl who was not particularly attractive. So when they cast Carrie, they really had to downplay her because she's so obviously beautiful. That's why all the sweaters and awkward clothing choices. We see her kind of blossom the last season, and I think that went alongside her growing confidence. I think that's a really good point. And I think the changes happened earlier. I think we'll see and notice, Fishy and I were talking about this a little bit, but there's going to be a aesthetic shift even as early as season 2. And I think it came out of a network note. I think it was like, we need more color, we need more, just make them look like humans. So I think we're going to start to see some of those shifts happen as early as season 2. And Ruby and Simba 13 is saying, like, even season 4, there's even more of a shift. But I do think that tracks really well with Felicity becoming more confident, becoming more really matching, because I think she's always been self-analytical, but I think that she's also been hard on herself and had a lot of real questions about who she is. And I think she starts to get more answers as time goes on. And I believe that will track with her progression and clothing choices. So I like that we're attaching that to story here.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know this at the time, and I guess, I mean, it makes sense that they wanted to dress her in an ugly way, I guess, if they wanted her to be less attractive somehow. But I don't know. I mean,
she really is gorgeous. And I think to this point, the stuff, she had been in the Mickey Mouse Club. So that's sort of an exception to the rule here. But she had been in a couple other roles where she was like really like the hot girl, like they didn't play her down at all. And she was the object of affection. And I think they had a work to do just because she is beautiful, but they also were overcoming maybe anybody who had seen her in other stuff. They had to sort of figure out how to, I don't know, like Ruby and Simba 13 says, make her more plain.
Yeah, I mean, if that was the goal, they've done a very good job. I will say that. They have made some questionable fashion choices that now seem like the correct call if that's what you were going for. And I mean, we do still have Julie in some interesting stuff. I am trying, I mean, this whole episode for me is just one big rant. So I figured I wouldn't go too deep into it, but those purple tights, ooh,
I think, and I can't remember. Well, I mean, I'm never somebody who really remembers clothing choices. I want to say Julie's style changes a little bit over time too, but I think in season 1, I think of her as eclectic.
yeah,
she's a pattern mixer. You just never know what she's going to wear.
Yeah, but she's had some like really nice things that go together that are still eclectic.
Mm-hmm.
And then she's had some like epic fails. And this was one of them. But that's okay, she has her own sense of style. And, making a choice to wear those really bright purple tights, I mean, at least it's a choice. It's not like an olive green or brown heavy cable knit sweater.
Yeah.
So I can see the difference between the two, like eclectic choice, Julie, plain Jane, Carrie.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, there you have it. Just another take on it. Maybe the style was part of the show and part of the story, for that matter.
And I am glad that it's going to become lighter, because one thing that always bugged me about 90s TV, and this happened across a number of different shows, is that they had this dark lighting, and it actually made it very hard to see on the TV what was
Yeah.
happening.
Yeah. Stuff in
So
Felicity's room is especially hard because like it's just it's like brown shades, brown everywhere, and it's very like neutral tones, but it can be it like you said, it feels dark,
it is dark,
actually
and there's
dark
a
to
lot of
see.
like even in this episode, when Felicity's sitting on the bench waiting for the interview, there's just this huge shadow right over her face. And the whole dark tone of it, I mean, it happened quite a bit through like something like Buffy, right? Where a lot of
Mhm.
stuff happens at night, but even during the day, there were a lot of shadows. Um, and if you compare that to like a 90210, where it was very bright all the time and all of the buildings were white and they were outside, it's just a huge difference. And I'm looking forward to being able to actually see people.
Yeah, that'll be nice. That'll be a nice thing when we get there. For now, we've got a little bit more time with this aesthetic, and that's, we'll grow to love it, I'm sure, or hate it, and then be happy when it's gone. We'll see how it
We
goes.
appreciate each for the role they play.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm curious to see where we've landed in terms of ratings on this one. Fish, I'll start with you because my goodness, I've been all over the place.
Yeah, and I've been consistent, but not happy.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, and again, I don't know, and like if I watch this on a different day, if I would have a different feeling. And so
Mm-hmm.
I probably will go back and watch it on a different day. But today, the whole show pissed me off.
Ah,
And that's just what I'm left with. So, you know, I mean, I did really like the art scene. I think that was great. I love the scenes between Javier and Ben, but I think those are just going to continue. Um, so I was just going to give this one a 6 glubs out of 10. Like I didn't like it. I didn't like any of the characters in it. I felt like they showed a lot of stuff that was not kind or human or like thinking about anyone but themselves. And I'm just looking forward to more episodes where they actually, you know, consider each other real people
mm-hmm.
and start acting like they have some sort of like empathy and care for one
Yeah,
another again.
yeah. Well, for me, this episode, I pretty much usually when I write down my rating, I keep it there. Maybe I modify it once by a little bit. I have 6 crossouts. I have written 7
Oh,
different ratings down
wow.
with a fairly wide spread between them because I don't actually know what I think about this episode. I will start by saying that my unit of measurement is going to be slow medics.
Ah,
Now, I
okay.
know some of you listeners at home or at work or wherever you're listening, you were shouting,
Malamar.
Malamars.
Yes.
Uh,
I mean, you didn't do it last time.
yep. You thought maybe you were going to get it this time. I'm acknowledging Malamars, but
Yep.
it's not my rating system this time, guys, because I just couldn't look away from the slow medics. I really appreciate, Fish, that you gave me a good reasoning behind why they were so slow. But I just thought, like, what is this? What is happening right now? I couldn't get over it. And so that is my rating system. I ended up with 6.4 out of 10 slow medics. Now, I'm really sorry to the 6th or 7th medic. Because I don't know how much of, I don't know where you split that body, but 6.4. How do I walk us through how I got there, though? I
Well, wait,
mean,
before you walk us through, what was your lowest and highest?
that is my lowest. My
Okay.
highest was 8.5.
Wow.
It was a
All right.
huge, huge spread. Most of my numbers were 7 or 6, or like in the 7 or 6 range.
And when you changed them, was it you changed them during the episode, or you did all of these after you'd seen the whole thing?
I did the first rating immediately after I saw the episode. And then as we were discussing it, my feelings about it continued to shift.
Oh, so basically I brought you down.
Well, talking, because the thing is, I needed to unpack this episode. And the more I unpacked it, the more I realized I'm not sure they did too much, I think. There's a lot. Like, I have never written so many notes on an episode before. There's a lot that they did. And there have been episodes where they've done a lot and it worked well for me. In this one, it just felt like they shoehorned so much in. And I think it was a little too much. I think if they had maybe removed a plot line, it could have freed us up a lot. And maybe allowed us to deal with some of the things that you saw as problematic, but they just had to get through a whole bunch of story points. The reason that I thought as high as an 8.5 was I was just blown away by how much they've set up for the future in this episode and the last episode, but especially this episode. This episode planted seeds that will bear out for seasons to come. It has given us a lot of things that we really need to know. It's given us new characters. It's just given us a lot of stuff. It's opened us up into the art world for Felicity. There's so much heavy lifting that got done. I applaud them for trying to get all this done. But as we really started going into the episode, I found that they had done it all very shallowly for me, or some of the things very shallowly. So I wanted more from it that we're not going to get because they did a lot. So that's why there was so much variation. And that's, yeah, it's something I was only really able to get through by saying, how much did we actually see of all this stuff that was discovered? I do like the fact that they were trying to play with the comedy plus the heaviness, the seriousness, because I do think that Felicity exists in both of those worlds as a show. And I want it to be introspective. I want it to make you feel. I want it to make you think. I want it to deal with deep questions. And I want the humor. And I like that they did both. They just did too many other things in the process for me.
Yeah, I agree. I think if they had removed the whole art studio from this episode and put it in a different one, like maybe the next episode, and then Felicity could have stayed in the hospital a little bit more and been more of a person. And, I still could have gotten through the rest of it because I really like that one scene. But I feel like she still could have talked about art, or maybe just pulled out the pencils or something and done some sketching. And you still could have had the rest of the episode.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would have given probably a much higher rating to both this episode and the one with the art scene in it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly what I would have pulled out and put into another episode, but I think something kind of needed to be. And all of that, remembering that when we opened this podcast, I read a TV Guide summary that also included that this episode involved Elena severing ties with Tara. Can you even imagine if they had tried to do that in this episode too? Oh,
yeah. And when you originally read that, and I know this is going to be weird because I probably have just made this up in my mind since I don't usually remember things, but I feel like I kind of remember Elena having a talk with Tara, whatever her name is, and saying, like, we're done,
well, I guess a lot of people who listen to this show and who know Felicity know it really, really, really well. I don't remember the original airings very well, if at all. And so I have no recollection of if in the original there was that scene and then it got cut when they did DVDs or streaming versions. If anybody remembers that scene,
Yeah.
Please illuminate us. I'd like to see it. Apparently it was supposed to happen in this episode. I honestly, had they tried to do that plus all the other things they did, my brain would have exploded.
It would not be pretty.
It wouldn't be good.
Please keep all of your brain matter inside your head.
Yeah.
Yeah, please do let us know though, because I may have just completely made up something in my own head. And I'd like to know whether it's real.
I mean, I think it's something that needed to be done. I wish we would have gotten that scene. I would like to see it because Elena and Tara were best friends, childhood friends. Tara was there for her when her mom was dying. She transfers into school, presumably for a whole semester, and hooks up with Blair some number of times after, I would imagine, Elena's talked to Tara about Blair.
Yeah,
and where did she go? Like, she just evaporated into thin air, like that can't be.
Yeah. Agreed.
Especially if you have core curriculum where potentially you're going to run into people in class. Like, just explain it to us somehow. Like, she didn't have to have transferred in.
Yeah.
They could have just said she's visiting, or she's
nearby
she's at a nearby school, or I don't know, place her in New York without having her matriculate. And then we might solve some of these problems, because then I could understand why we would never see her again. But I'm getting all caught up in something that wasn't even a story. Yeah, listeners. So if anybody remembers this being a scene that you saw in the original airing, or if you have any other feedback or Felicity fan art, anything you want to share with us about the podcast, you can write to us at themelissafish@gmail.com. That's the Melissa with 1 L, 2 S's, themelissafish@gmail.com. You can also find us on Instagram at Felicity Podcast. Come join us there. There's so many cool Felicity fans hanging out on our page. Yes. We love them. They're the best, period. Yeah. And also, if you are interested to be informed when the podcast comes out, when we drop new episodes, you can sign up for our newsletter. You can find a link for that in the show notes. So you don't have to guess when it's coming out. We'll just tell you. But having said all that, the next one we've got coming up is an episode entitled Love and Marriage.
Love and marriage, love and marriage.
Yep. So that's the one. That's the one we're going to get. And Fish just sang another show's theme song, getting us there.
I did. Well, it's also a Frank Sinatra song.
It's also that. So Love and Marriage, that's the one we're going to get. Fish, anything else that you want to talk about before we close out?
Nope. I think that's everything I got. The show pissed me off. I'm going to watch it again. I will check in with you guys after the next episode to let you know how I felt on a different day.
That would be interesting to see.
Yes.
I mean, it's a letdown, right? Because you were full 10 out of 10 gloves for Todd Mulcahy Part 1. The show had two very different feelings across the two episodes. So I was not expecting you to have the same interpretation of this one.
Yeah.
But this might be our lowest rated one so far.
Well, yeah, but in all fairness, I did drag you down on this one.
Well, I dragged myself down. I started getting into the meat of it and thought, what's here? What is here exactly? Not enough. So, well, I think we've done it. We've said all the things we wanted to say. We're bracing ourselves for Love and Marriage next time around. And that's pretty much it, Fish. So until next time, don't hook up with Ben while I'm gone.
I'm Fish.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.